That's exactly it, a very affordable phone with great specs, what Xiaomi does best. Now, design-wise, this may not be anything mind-blowing, however, the phone looks a bit more recognizable due to the massive text on the back there. So yes, the back does look a bit more unique, but keep in mind that the back of the phone is made out of plastic, so it will get scratched fairly easy, but there is a case that comes in the box. Now, what's the most impressive thing about this phone has to be the screen. So this is a 6.67 inches IPS panel with a 1080p resolution, but we actually get a high refresh rate. So we get a 120 Hz refresh rate on a budget phone. That never ever happens. If you want that high of a refresh rate, you definitely need to get yourself like a flagship. Well, that's not the case with this phone. So whenever you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, your Twitter feed, or playing a game, it does feel smoother than normal. So very impressive that we get a screen like that on such an affordable device. Another thing that's super impressive has to be the battery life, at least for me. So inside this phone we get a 5100 mAh battery, well, a 5160 mAh battery, but on one charge you get more than 13 hours of screen on time, which is crazy good. And what's even crazier is how fast you can charge that to the charger that comes in the box. So you can charge this from 0 to 100 in about 70 minutes. That's just over an hour. So many things are quite impressive about this phone and unheard of up until now, basically. Now, even though the screen is quite impressive, I wish it would have been a bit brighter, because when you take the phone outside in direct sunlight, it is a bit difficult seeing the screen. But I guess that's the price of paying to get all these great specs for such an affordable phone. Inside this phone we also have the Snapdragon 732, and no, this is not the fastest processor out there, and that's paired with 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage, or 128 or 256 gigs of internal storage. And I personally recommend that you try getting the version with at least 128 gigs of internal storage, because 64 is just not enough, at least in my opinion, and that's the version that I personally have, 128 gigs of internal storage. So this processor is gonna be good for most people and for most applications, but there are certain games that you're gonna notice that the phone lags a bit. I mean, the lag isn't bad, don't imagine something that the phone is unusable. The phone is more than usable, but if you're coming from a more powerful processor, you may feel that. And even if you check the score on the Antutu benchmark, you already know that you're not looking at the most powerful phone out there. So for most people, yes, this phone will be more than okay, but if you're coming from something more powerful, you may feel a bit of lag for certain applications. Other features worth mentioning are the fingerprint scanner that's on the side of the phone. Not my favorite positioning for a fingerprint scanner, but yes, the fingerprint scanner does work great, and it only takes like less than half a second from the time you press it for the screen to come on. So that one does work good. So the fingerprint scanner is basically the power button. We also have an IR blaster, so you can use this as a remote control. I haven't really used it with anything, but yes, you could control your TV with that. And something very impressive these days, we also get a 3.5mm audio jack. So if you want to plug in some headphones, you can. And we also get dual speakers. So we have the one at the top and the one at the bottom. And I have to say, these speakers sound extremely loud. Probably some of the loudest speakers that I've heard on any mobile device. And I guess this is a quick example so you can hear how these two speakers sound. Another potential downside to using a budget phone is the fact that neither of the cameras on the back of this device has optical image stabilization, and that may mean that in some situations your pictures could turn out blurry. I haven't really had that happening, but it's possible. I mean, if your hands are shaking really bad, maybe the pictures will turn up a bit blurrier than normal. Now, the cameras on this phone are once again pretty impressive for a phone in this price range. These are some examples of pictures that I took. So on the back there we have the main lens, we have an ultra-wide lens, then we have a 2-megapixel macro lens, which I'm never gonna use, and then we have another lens that's used for portrait mode pictures. And for pictures and for the price of the phone, I feel that the phone does really good. But definitely for pictures, this phone has improved a lot from other budget-friendly devices from Xiaomi that I've tried in the past. As for video quality, you can do 4K at 30 frames per second, and I feel that for a budget phone, the video quality is also pretty decent. And once again, if you want to see more samples, there are more samples in that camera comparison that I mentioned. So overall, I am very happy with the cameras on the POCO X3 NFC. For the price, I feel that the cameras are really good. Not to mention that you even get a night mode for the main lens. Something, once again, that doesn't usually happen with a lot of budget devices. So this phone runs EMUI 12, which is based on Android 10, and personally I love EMUI 12. It's very smooth whenever you move from screen to screen, when you open, close apps, everything works really good. But there is a but with this phone. So they had to cut corners somewhere, and they had to do something to make this phone this affordable. So this phone has built-in ads. You heard that right. So at least they are not that intrusive. I mean, I've only seen them when I install or uninstall an app. So you basically get an ad showing up on the screen. Since they're not very intrusive, they're not horrible, but I'm not sure how I feel about my phone showing me ads whenever I do something on it. So that is a downside to buying this phone, those built-in ads. And I guess it makes sense because they can keep the price of the phone lower, but I wish they would have had like a version a bit more expensive, like $20, $30, $40 more expensive, and maybe no ads. But other than that, I don't really have anything bad to say about this phone. I mean, even the GPS unit inside it only takes like less than half a second to find your location. The call quality is really good. So in many ways, this phone is quite impressive for the price, and probably one of the best budget phones that you can buy these days.